Going to talk about control flow and loop logic. Now, I also wanted to address something real quick. I also realized as I was fixing up the last video, I didn't cover a lot of variables, things such as arrays, array lists, linked lists, binary search trees, hash tables. Now, honestly, a lot of that stuff falls more into the topic of data structures. Sorry, I was drawing a blank there for a second. But anyways, yeah, so data structures, they're kind of like a whole category in their own. I had a whole class on it at CSU, and really they're fascinating, and there's a lot that can be said about them. So yeah, so be on the lookout for that. But for this episode, we're going to talk about control flow with programming, so like if, else, if, and well, else statements. And that's another thing that's kind of different across the different programming languages. For instance, Python, you use if, elif, else, and you can chain as many elif statements as you want within the same control flow section. And let's see if I'm going in the right place. Yep. And then there's loop logic. And for that, there's a lot of tasks that you want to accomplish when you're writing code that you have to do things repeatedly. Like, say, if you want to do something for every character in a string, which we know by now is a string of characters. Or, you know, actually, it would probably be good if I did go into arrays and array lists, because loops are also really good for accessing or doing something that concerns every item in an array. So, real quick, an array is just a series of variables, so stored as a group. And like I said, we'll go more in depth in that later on. And yeah, and all that stuff, it definitely changes from language to language. So the if-else statements, that's what we would consider a bit of control flow. So the reason that we have if-else statements, is to determine if a certain condition is true, then we want to do something. Else, we want to do something else. And really...
Hey, you made it! My ship's right there. State-of-the-art Atlas cloaking, baby. This way. No, 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 no! Gotta go!
Reese, buddy. Giving that unconditional surrender any more thought? Or do you need another love slap from your old pal Laseroid to change your mind?
Screw you!
When you're ready, just swing by with the paperwork. Can't wait to absorb Atlas into the Malawan family. Oh, and you can bring Zero. I'll bet he's interested.
I'd die before I hand over Atlas to that corporate asshat. New plan. New plan. We steal a Malawan shuttle with security protocols. Here, take this. So, the Viper Drive is Atlas state-of-the-art remote hacking. And we'll use that baby to steal a Malawan shuttle. You in?
Yes. But what's going on with your face plumage? Is it to attract a mate or scare away predators?
Focus! Just find yourself a Malawan shuttle and pop in a Viper Drive. I will do the rest.
Okay, and a quick aside, hacking is not nearly that easy. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of work, and a lot of patience. So, just wanted to point that out.
Time to try out the Viper Drive. So, pop it into that console.
Okay, so if-else statements usually...
Time to try out the Viper Drive. So, just gotta get in somewhere you're not wanted. Viper Drive by Atlas. It's state-of-the-art.
I do gotta say, I love those little Easter egg statements that it does.
High fives? Anybody? Okay. Hey, let me know when you're there.
Run, you weaklings!
Okay, so if-else statements. What are they and what are they used for? So let's use an example. So a great example of a program is to tell what letter grade a student got on a grade score. So you pass in a grade score, and depending on what the score is, you return their letter grade. So if it's 90 or above, you would return an A. If, or else if, or elif, or if else, depending on the language, the score is 80 and above, and you don't have to worry about 90 and above because that was already handled by the first if statement, you would return a B. Else if else, or elif, the score is 70 or above, you would return a C. Else elif, if else, the score is 60 and above, you would return a D. And else, the catch-all condition, like it doesn't matter what else it is because we've already covered everything above that and each little section in between. Else, return F. Because if they got a negative score, they definitely failed. If they got a 59 or lower, usually in school, that means they failed. So, and that's why I really like that example, because it points out a nifty little thing you can do, a kind of shortcut, if you will. So, like I said,
well,
it's
that
on top.
actually worked. I mean, of course that worked. and no death spheres in sight.
Did you? Death spheres?
Never mind. According to Zero's intel, your Vault key fragment is powering the laser. We just gotta find the control room. Head to the main gate. No death spheres.
Spoilers, there are death spheres later on. Anyways, so yeah, the first if condition covers everything of a score 90 and above. So if it's equal to 90, or I guess I should also specify, you'll often want to use greater than or equal to. So if you do get passed in a score that's 90, you want it to be considered an A, or at least for this situation. Of course, you can change it for whatever situation you're trying to use this control flow with.
That is the Sonara, Kanagawa's pleasure yacht. Rumor is he invited his siblings on board for a party, and then murdered them. That's how he became head of mergers and acquisitions at Malawan. Oh, by the way, be careful with this low gravity. It might take some getting used to.
Love the low gravity. There's actually low gravity in the majority of the pre-sequel game, so if you like it here, unfortunately this is the only area that it exists in. However, you can also do it all throughout the pre-sequel. But all that aside, yeah, control flow. So that's possibly the... I failed at that. How did I fail at that? Okay, whatever. Okay, I think you gotta go back up here and up here. Anyways. Alright. Really? That should work. There we go. Okay, anyways, control flow. So yeah, oftentimes you want to control what happens with your program based on certain conditions. Now, if statements can evaluate to true, meaning that they'll execute the code that follows or is contained within that if statement, if it's a 1, a true statement, or it satisfies the condition. And by that I mean you could pass a Boolean to an if statement, and if the Boolean is set to true, then that if statement will run, or the code that is linked to that if statement will execute. Now, that's why it's also nice to do a if else, because if the Boolean is false, you want something else to happen. So, yeah, and it'll make more sense the more examples you see, and honestly, this is one of the great ways that computer code can basically be used to translate just about everything in the real world to ones and zeros. So, I think we talked about that. We'll probably talk about that a little more. I mean, computers can only understand ones and zeros. We've just done a lot of intricate things with those ones and zeros. Also, pro tip, there's a secret compartment under here. So we're going to go up here before we go take out all those people. So anyways, if-else statements. That's pretty much all there is to that. I mean, aside from doing a bunch of examples to kind of solidify that knowledge, that learning. And like I said, I'm going to be adding a ton of this to the... Oh, okay, we got to go kill somebody. If we can... There we go. Alright. Yeah, I wasn't worried. Were you worried? No, of course not. So, anyways, yeah, if-else statements. They're very handy, and oftentimes they can take care of the goal of your program. Now, for the things that you want to do repeatedly, like, say, iterate through, and also, by the way, iterate means look at or do something with each item. So iterate, usually one at a time, like in order. If you want to iterate through all of the items in something, so that could be all of the characters in a string, it could be all of the... Oh, real quick, let's do this.
After I found the vault, all that fame went to my head. At first I was handing out free pickles to orphans left and right, but soon I was building myself houses and yachts out of Rakumi ham. Also, I lost a buttload of cash betting at the ranch track. Pretty soon I was broke. They repossessed my ham yacht. Meanwhile, Atlas was exploring the neighboring asteroids, hoping to strike it rich. That's
Okie dokie, so we'll open that door. Did I open it? No. Okay, and loot all the lootables. Alright, so like I was saying, for loops are really handy if you want to do something for every item in something. A variable, a data structure, something. And actually, Python is really handy to make this easy. So, the most common loops are for loops, while loops, and do while loops. Now, honestly, do while loops are pretty pointless because what they do is they force the loop to execute one time, and then they'll continue to execute while the condition is met. Now, while loops, they will only execute as many times as the condition is met. And what do I mean by condition is met? Well, every loop has a condition. So, for loops are pretty easy. You get to basically state how long you want to do it in the beginning. Well, I mean, really you do it with all of them, but with for loops, let's use Python as an example. And let's say we have a string, and we want to make every character in that string uppercase. So, simple thing, you know, task, and something you probably wouldn't want to do except for certain situations, whatever. But the idea is what's useful, so it's good to know. So, for a for loop for that, you would do for char in, well, let's see this. Let's say the string is named word. So you'd want to do for char in word. Now, char is actually a variable that changes with every char or character in that word. And that word can also be a whole sentence too. It doesn't matter. The for loop will go through, and for every character or every char contained in that string, it will do something. So then, within the loop body, or the code contained within the for loop, you could do something like char equals char.upper. Dot upper, and then open close parenthesis. And we'll get more into that later. That's a method or a function, depending on how you look at it, that will make that char uppercase. Now, actually, as I say that doesn't sound right, and that actually wouldn't work, really, because to change a string, you would have to build a new string. Yeah, well, we'll get more into that later, but the gist of the idea is for each of the char, okay, yeah, actually, let's talk about that. So say you have a new string, and you want to name it word capitalized. And remember, you're using snake case if it's Python, so you do word underscore capitalized for the name of that variable. Alright, so what you would do in the for loop...
Looks like there's security up ahead. You take care of that. I will make sure they can't call for backup.
Okay. So, for that for loop, you would do for char in word, and then in the loop body, or the code contained therein, you would say word upper, or word capitalized, whatever you named your variable, sorry, I already forgot, word capitalized plus equals char.upper. Alright, now that's definitely going to sound confusing to people just joining that don't know a whole lot about programming yet. And that's totally okay. I mean, just hearing it, it's a good introduction to it. So, basically, I'm explaining the idea of a for loop. So, what that does is it adds each character, capitalized this time, to the new string. Also, don't forget to initialize that new variable up higher and set it to an empty string, so you can be sure that it only contains nothing. It doesn't contain gibberish from reused code or whatever from the memory location. Anyways, so that's a basic for loop, and it will execute for every character or char in word, and it'll stop once it runs out of characters or chars. Well, I mean, that's the same thing. It'll run out of characters. I just keep saying character and char, make it interchangeable. But in this situation, we said that it was for char in word. So char is the variable that's changing based on every char. And it turns into the new char every time it moves to the next one in the string. Okay, so that's a for loop. For loops are good because you can say how long you want them to execute from the get-go. Now, while loops are a little different. They're actually useful when you don't know when that end is going to happen. You just want to make sure that it continues to execute the loop for as long as the condition is true. Now, let's see. For an example of that, we would initialize a variable. Let's say 10 equals the number 10. Oh, that's a bad variable. Let's say the variable is called num1. There you go, num1 equals 10. And then the while loop could say something like while num1 is greater than 0. And then in the loop body, you could do something that you would always want to make sure that you decrement or decrease by 1 the variable num1. Otherwise, that condition would always evaluate to true, and that's how you get into an infinite loop. And infinite loops are fun, and I almost guarantee you're going to do it at some point. So best you learn about it early on. Infinite loops will crash your system or your program. It'll time out, it'll stall, it'll eat up memory, and make things really slow until hopefully your computer can figure out what's going on. I know Replit does a really good job about handling infinite loops. But basically, it's a bug. It's always a bug. You never want an infinite loop. As much as you might think that might sound cool, infinite loops are bad. Anyways, and don't be embarrassed when you do it, because it's not if you do it, it's when. And I've done several, so like I said, don't worry about it. But you want to make sure that you're changing the variable. That way, the condition is going to evaluate to false. And by that, I mean it's going to execute the loop for as long as that statement is true. So same thing, if you were comparing a Boolean and it started off as true and you never change it, then it's always going to be true. So you got to be careful with using Booleans and while loops. I mean, if you're setting the Boolean to true after you've, say, found a certain letter, a certain character in a string, but if that character does not exist in the string, then that Boolean's never going to be set to true. So yeah, again, infinite loop, and that could be dangerous. So, and it's usually an easy fix too. Once you realize, you know, your mistake, you'd be like, oh, I'll just need to go in and change that, or maybe set another condition. Be like, while, let's just say we have a Boolean called is found. Alright, so, and we're looking for the letter I. Why not? In a word, I don't even know what the word is. Doesn't matter. If there's an I in it, then we could, well, we would check that character and see if it is the letter I. And if it is, we would set the Boolean to true. Okay, I need to back up a little bit. Oh, he's resistant to electricity. Okay, so yeah, and you're looping through, checking each character, you know, comparing it to see if it's the letter I. And if you find an I, you set the Boolean to true. If you don't find that I, well, yeah, you guessed it, infinite loop. Now what you can do is you can add 2 conditions to the loop condition. So you can do while is found equals false, and counter is less than 10, let's say. So you only, and then what you would need to do is you would need to make sure that you're changing the counter to increment up until it hits 10. That means your loop would either do only 9 or 10, depending on whether you start the counter at 0 or 1. Okay, yeah, definitely getting really complex with this,
I'll
but
find you a way in. Pop a Viper drive into that console so I can hack security and locate the fragment.
the general gist of all of this is, oh, I gotta go hack the terminal. And again, this is not how you really hack, but whatever. General gist is you have for loops, while loops, and do while. Now, in some languages, you also have things called switch statements. Unfortunately, Python... Oh, hold on.
Your hacking skills need some bite. Viper drive.
Yeah.
Okay, fragment's not far. I'm gonna open that gate. There's reinforcements on the other side, so find some cover and ambush them.
They'll be coming out here.
Here they come! Enter the base and pop a Viper drive into the security console. Then I will hack in, locate the laser control room.
Okay, so a switch statement is really handy if you have a bunch of conditions and you don't want to do a really long, drawn-out if-else tree, I guess? Structure of if-else. Anyways, you can do the same thing a switch can do with a bunch of if-else statements, but it looks ugly. I mean, it's not the best. And yeah, unfortunately with Python, you don't get a switch statement. They just don't have one in the language. So, and that's fine. Python has something called a dictionary. And...
Real good. Real good.
Why, thank you, Reese. Alright, so anyways, dictionaries are another one of those data structures that I did not quite
The
cover.
main elevator leads right down to the laser. We'll be in and out so fast, Katagawa won't know what hit him.
I did not quite cover in the first variables video. And also there's a chest up there. I don't remember how to get to it. We'll worry about that later. Honestly, I'm not too concerned. Though I could use some better guns. Actually, you know what? Huzzah! I think it's right here. Oh. Yes, sir, it is. Anyways, so dictionaries are a data structure where you can compare something to a lot of somethings. I know, it's pretty vague, but really it's kind of takes a lot of explaining to explain a dictionary. And again, with all of these things, feel free to check out the website for a better detailed explanation eventually once I add it. And you can also Google search all this stuff and get a much more detailed explanation from another tutorial website or resource. Anyways, back to switch statements. So switch statements are really handy. So say, let's go back to that grading function or program. So you've got a grade, and you want to compare that grade to a few different conditions. Well, instead of doing a big if-else statement to determine whether it's an A, B, C, D, or F, you could do switch, 90 to 100, do this, A. Switch, and then another switch. Oh, let's listen to this.
Well, Hannah, I miss you. But if I gotta be away from home another night, at least it's on the best job in the whole system. Union requires there be a technician assigned to any laser above Sigma class, even though the Skywell's been shut down for years. Just me and my Echo above Promethea. I wonder if I can see our house from here.
Now call the elevator. It'll take you right down
sorry,
to
I
the
cut
laser.
it off. Dang. I'm trying not to do that, but anyways, we're going to call the elevator and summon reinforcements. Yes, sir. We're going to hack it. Viper Drive.
Viper Drive. When you've got pink eye and can't open your front door with a retinal scan, we'll be there. Atlas, stay the art.
I'm in. Bypassing security protocols now. I said now. Now. Now, you stupid. Oh, no.
Reese, is that you? Welcome! So once we make your unconditional surrender nice and official, you and I are gonna partay on the Zanara. That's my pleasure yacht. Security,
And that's code for kill you.
the Vault Hunter.
Okie dokie. So, switch statements. I misspoke. So if it's not the first condition, that's the first case. And so then it would go to look at the second case, and if it satisfies that condition, then it would do the code contained in the second case. And again, I'm going to definitely have to provide some examples of all this, but I know that Java does a case statement, or a switch statement. That's where I first learned it. And it's pretty handy. I mean, but like you said, you can also accomplish the same thing with a bunch of if-else statements. Same logic, or very similar logic. You go through a bunch of different conditions, and if any of them are true, then you do the code associated with that condition. Oh, I'm gonna die. Why am I even using this gun? It's garbage. Okay, there we go. Where'd you come from? Okay, so anyways, case 1 doesn't work, case 2 doesn't work. Alright, then it looks at case 3, and so on until all the cases are done. And if it doesn't satisfy any of them, then it does a default, just like the else in an if-else statement. So the else by itself is just default, like, okay, if it wasn't true with any of these if or if-else statements, just do the else. And that's the same with the switch statement. Actually, I'm kind of drawing a blank as to what you call that. So I'll try to add it to the description as I upload this video, which is actually going to be pretty soon. I mean, we're not quite done with the mission, but we're getting close to that 30-minute mark. We're close-ish, so. And honestly, I really like the whole 30-minute videos a lot better because it's easier to focus. Well, easier, not easy. And easier to cover certain specific topics. Yes. Okay. Ooh, that was too close. Alright, so, I'm trying to think. Any other loop logic? No. Kill him, beastie. Oh, it's a badass nog. I'm gonna die. So those guys are extra tough. They're like the tanks. But that one's a badass one. So, alright. That's okay. Try again. And as everything with computer science, take your time, be patient. Loop logic is a little hard to grasp the first time around, or even the 20th time around. You know, it takes practice just like everything else. And something my calculus professor said back in college, calculus is like lifting a cow. You do it by doing a little each day, or don't go out and try to lift a cow by any means. Don't do that. But if you lift a cow when it's like a little baby cow, the idea is, oh yeah, that's not so hard. And then as the cow gets bigger, you just lift it once a day and you can continue to lift it. Now I know, like, nobody's strong enough to lift like a full-grown cow, or probably not, that'd be pretty insane. But it's the idea, it's the principle. Oh, come on, get outside from out there, shoot.
Wait a sec.
There we go.
Reese, why are there vault hunters here? Tell me you weren't trying to take out my laser. It's my favorite laser, Reese. Oh, hey! Yeah, see the whole laser thing. Well, it's just making it hard for my employees to work down here. It's really starting to kill morale a little bit. Who cares about them? I'm doing this for us, the people who matter, the executives. But you're ruining it, Reese. You're ruining it by trying to defend yourself.
Oh, where am I? Jesus.
Security! Kill the freaking vault hunter!
Oh, yep, and like I was saying earlier, it destroyed the shield generator. That's a regular Nog, so he's not as strong as that last guy. Okay, so anyways, yeah, loop logic. It's very useful because there are a lot of times where, say, well, for file input and output, it is really useful. You're going to want to read through every line in an input file. And I'll definitely be doing an entire episode or 2 or even 10 episodes on file input and output, because that's really like one of the most important things about learning how to program. And it's also one of the more complex because you have to have special variables, file handles, stuff like that, and you also have to ensure that the file is able to be found. And yeah, anyways, we'll go into that at a later date. So, for now, loop logic. You would want to loop through and do something with every file or every line in a file. That's how they're broken up. But really, you'd also want to, I gotta get rid of some garbage. I know, middle of a fight, but let's see, don't want you, and why not? Let's get rid of all of these whites so we can make profit. Capitalism. Okay. Even some of these green, like grenade mods. Yeah, because I'm going to get a lot of cool loot when I destroy this laser. And I'm thinking I might have to destroy the laser in the next episode. So let's see, what else is there to say about loop logic? So there is control flow, which is if-else statements, and
Walk
then...
down the elevator. Well, let's see. Oh, hell yeah. Some spy stuff. Head through those ventilation ducts.
Nope.
They
After I
lead
jump
straight
down.
into the maintenance area.
Okay, so anyways, yeah, control flow is usually taught separately from loop logic just because, well, classes are going to be a lot more in-depth than these tutorial violent videos. And that's fine. I'm actually still, you know, like I said, I went and looked for other videos that were doing something like this, and honestly, I didn't really find anything. I mean, it seems most people either want to play video games or make actual tutorial videos, but I'm going to do both. And let's see. So, air vents.
All right. Head through maintenance. I might have found a way into the laser control room. Oh, Reese. I know your stupid vault hunters are skulking about. Better sign those surrender papers, buddy. Otherwise...
Target located. Laser fire in 3, 2, 1.
No, that was my favorite bagel place! Katagawa, you monster! Booyah! And that's only half power. If you don't surrender soon, Reese, I'm gonna slice you in half. Stupid Katagawa. I totally could have held him off. And then he allied with the stupid children of the vault. Those cultists have been working themselves to death. I can't compete with free labor.
Okay, and I know there's a chest back here, and yeah, why not? Let's go ahead and grab it. Oh, wait. Oh, are you kidding me? Never mind. It's related to something else. That, I don't know right off the top of my head, but it's something else. Anyways, yeah, normally in school, control flow is taught, and then loop logic is taught. But anyways, it's all stuff that I learned in my freshman year doing computer science, so it's definitely a beginner concept for programming. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything really I want to talk about them. I mean, really, I just need to show a bunch of examples, because that's what it takes. A bunch of examples, situations, stuff like that. And we're nearing the 30-minute mark. So, with that, yeah, we'll go ahead and stop here. We'll finish the laser in the next video. Alright, see you guys there.